His days are numbered. They can't defeat us, they can't find us. We strike like lightning and melt into the night like ghosts. We continue with the second part of exploring the universe of Batman, The Dark Knight Returns. In the previous video, we witnessed the second return of the Bat to the public eye. We witnessed Lara's first appearance before the world, the sacrifice of Shazam. We witnessed a trend that evolved into a revolution poised to transform the cultural and socio-political landscape worldwide. So before we continue, I just ask you to leave me a like to fight against the YouTube algorithm. If you won't help me, please do it out of pity. I've read these stories multiple times to create these videos. I hope you enjoy this second and final part of the story, and remember to tell me in the comments what other universes you would like to see explored later on the channel. The impact that all these events had caused was sent to Green Lantern. Batman sent a message since he was the only one who knew the location of Hal Jordan, who had already started a family on a distant planet. On the other hand, after the concert, Carrie Kelly and Arrow were also attacked by this pseudo-Joker. Luckily, this girl was capable enough to defend herself and completely destroyed the villain. Literally, she tore him apart. Sometime later, when he goes looking for Saturn Girl, a girl with the power to predict the future, she discloses that Joker is alive. Scared, she declines the invitation to join the movement. But she wishes Carrie the best of luck, even though she leaves without believing that villain had managed to survive. Lara and her father finally spent some time together. And she mentions that she had been called by Raniak, who still had the city of Kandor in his possession. The last time they saw each other, Batman installed some kind of communicator in Clark's brain so that the Bat could appear before his eyes whenever he wanted. Now that Metropolis was destroyed, the detective deduces that it was something else that Lex and Brainiac had to blackmail the Man of Steel. And in a matter of seconds, he finds out the answer. He knows that having Superman on their side, they would win the war. So he immediately convinces both of them to join their ranks in exchange for rescuing the city. Although it's clear that Bruce Wayne was in his final moments. The riots in Gotham hadn't stopped for a couple of weeks. When Batman revealed that he was still alive, the president ordered a military attack that was contained by Superman. In seconds, Lara surrendered to Brainiac. She was able to get close to Kandor just as established in the plan, and now it was Adam's turn to free the Kryptonians. On the other hand, the Bat was captured by Lex when he tried to infiltrate his building to attack him directly. He was beaten almost to death, but Batman didn't dare to pass out. He had to stay awake for the final part of the plan. Luthor and Brainiac planned to cause earthquakes all over the world with their special missiles. Their technology had already proven effective by destroying the Fortress of Solitude and the island that had served as a refuge for the Thanagarians, where hundreds died. Unfortunately for the villains, at that very moment, Green Lantern was able to sabotage all those satellites in orbit. A move that Lex never saw coming before being killed by a Thanagarian. On top of that, Roy Palmer had managed to enter Kandor and break the crystal. The prisoners absorbed the power of the Yellow Sun, joined Lara, and together they ended Brainiac's life. Carrie Kelly was under attack by Joker in the Batcave, which triggered a distress call. Bruce rushed to her rescue, hoping it wasn't too late. He activated the self-destruct of the place, and when this psychopath tried to disable the command, his identity was revealed. Dick Grayson, the resentful Robin. After being fired by Batman due to his incompetence, he was recruited by Brainiac and Luthor, undergoing experiments that changed him completely. He had become immortal. He carried out tasks for his bosses, but he never forgot that unfinished revenge against the Bat. The vigilante distracted his former partner with holograms and mocked him for being envious. He called Carrie useless, a coward, and told her that her incompetence was the reason she was fired. That he wasn't worth keeping as an ally. Dick Grayson just said that back then he really cared about Batman and would have done anything for him. Words that didn't matter to the Bat before he cut off this guy's head and threw him to the bottom of the cliff into the burning lava. It seemed like the end for both of them if it hadn't been for Superman's intervention rescuing his friend. Carrie was still conscious as they moved away from the collapse that made the legendary Batcave disappear. All the trophies from past victories, everything was gone. Batman said none of that mattered, that it was all just junk. The girl barely smiled, agreeing with the Bat. She mentioned that the giant coin was ridiculous, but it was still part of their history. A new era had begun, a better tomorrow, a promising future. The heroes had the world in their hands. It's been 3 years since Batman was last seen. Wonder Woman, the Amazonian queen, stays on her island to care for her second son, Jonathan. Lara continues to be a rebel who feels no appreciation for humanity. Superman rescued Kandor, but he stayed in the fortress until he froze. Maybe because he felt he had no purpose in the world. Even though they had managed to free him from Luthor and Brainiac, his daughter visited him often, and finally the Kandorians had managed to get his attention. After hiding for so long, Batman was seen one night beating up criminals. The authorities had to be strict with vigilantes, and his sighting led to a chase. He beat up a dozen police officers before being contained. And with Commissioner Jindal at the scene, there was nowhere to escape. Carrie Kelly now wore the mantle, and when she was questioned about the whereabouts of Bruce Wayne, she simply said that he was dead. Lara turned to Roy Palmer for help to find a way to return Kandor to normal. Experiments to restore their original size had already been done years before, but with terrible results. Thanks to Val, a brilliant Kandorian mind who complements Palmer's research, they are able to come up with a way to achieve their goal. A select group of citizens volunteered to be the first. It turned out to be a cult that sought to take over the world. Palmer couldn't do anything against them. He knew he had made a terrible mistake. He was crushed by the leader of these believers, and the rest of Kandor disappeared in his heat vision. Meanwhile, Carrie Kelly escaped from the police by activating the battle tank with only her whistle. It seems that all of this was just a test to measure her abilities and see if she was capable of inheriting Batman's crusade. Now that Bruce's body was at its limit, his brain seemed intact, but his muscles no longer responded. Both witnessed Kuar's threat from Krypton. They saw how his followers worshipped him. They took a pill and went to the most important cities around the world to blow up along with them. They demanded to be worshipped as gods in exchange for salvation and gave the world 3 days to think about it. Batman knew that they couldn't win this new confrontation alone. They went to the Fortress of Solitude looking for the Man of Steel, the one who had remained frozen for years after surrendering. But he didn't answer, at least not until he heard Carrie Kelly say that her people were about to take over the planet. Kuar broke into the Pentagon once the deadline was up. But the only answer he found here was a go to hell from Batman, backed up by Superman. What neither of them expected was that Lara would side with this sect, considering her father a traitor to his race. By the way, Green Lantern returned to Earth once again to protect the Sphinx of Gaza, which was being vandalized by Kuar's wives. And will this cost him part of his arm his whole life? Lara wondered why she, her mother, or her father couldn't rule the world. The Earth was beautiful and fertile, but humans killed a little bit of it every day. We don't know how to take care of what we have. We're stupid, dangerous, a plague, a single race that attacks its own territory. With this thought in mind, Lara attacked her father for hours. No one could intervene, there was no way. Everyone was a witness. They arrived at the Fortress of Solitude, where the sect declared them guilty. Superman was wrapped in dark matter, unable to break free, unable to move, and everything around him was destroyed. The next step for Kuar was to demand that they hand over Batman or he would destroy Gotham City without hesitation. Within 12 hours, millions of citizens started causing disasters to demand that the police begin searching for the Bat. Commissioner Jindal simply did nothing. Flash went to Gotham to help in any way he could, but before he arrived, he was attacked by one of the Kryptonians who were roaming the area. Luckily for him, he was found by one of Batman's sons and was sheltered in the hideout. Carrie Kelly was sent on a side mission to meet Aquaman at the Gotham Harbor. The mission was to recover what was left of Superman from the bottom of the ocean. I can't explain this part very clearly since it's not really explained that well here either. But apparently, dark matter trapped Superman in an eternal abyss. The artifact acted as a tuning fork, bringing Clark back to reality after feeling trapped for centuries. Even though only a couple of days passed, it was still enough time to think, renew himself, and come back better than ever. Quark and his sect watched from above as the people destroyed their own city. Meanwhile, Batman finally came out into the open aboard his battle tank, drawing the crowd's attention. The time had come and the citizens were not able to hand over the Bat to the new gods. In the middle of the reign, he gave the order to his followers to kill them all. However, something strange happened with all these Kryptonians. They began to fall one by one, crashing violently to the ground. Bruce's plan was working. He had successfully made the kryptonite fall from the sky. He used diluted kryptonite with the help of drones, weakening the Kryptonians enough so that the furious crowd would have a chance against them. Superman even followed Batman's plan, using the special suit he had made for him. Kuar refused to be defeated by those he considered an inferior species. Despite the grave consequences, Commissioner Jindal ordered the intervention against the terrorists. She knew the psychopaths had to face justice. The leader attempted to flee using his limited powers. He was struck by lightning and also by the sonic waves launched by Batman's sons. The grenades came afterward. Batman broadcasted images worldwide of the false gods being humiliated. Unfortunately, everything starts to get complicated with the arrival of Lara and Val. None of them were exposed to liquid kryptonite, so their powers are at their maximum capacity. Val destroyed the tank effortlessly and captured Carrie, throwing her through the air. Despite his insults and his superiority monologue, he was defeated 2 minutes later when Carrie threw a small fragment of kryptonite right into his eye. The effects of the rain wore off and the cult left defeated. Despite the distance, Kuar launched a final lethal attack at Batman, killing him. The news of the death of the Dark Knight spread quickly. Carrie Kelly found the rumors amusing. The media noted that Batman had seemingly died many times before, but this time he wasn't responding to his communicator. Val and Lara returned to the cult. Kuar was furious and planning his revenge. He was determined to take Kal-El's other son after Lara accidentally revealed his existence. Very soon, she landed on the island with the intention of taking her younger brother. Wonder Woman found her there and knew what her intentions were. Lara was not alone, and neither was the powerful Queen of the Amazons. That video that captured the exact moment when Batman was killed was still circulating everywhere. Superman did not abandon his friend. He knew he could save him and took him to the only place in the world that could perform such a miracle. He took him to the Lazarus Pit. Shortly after that, renewed Bruce Wayne showed up in the Batcave, and Batwoman couldn't have been happier to see him standing. When the Kandorians demanded that the Amazons hand over little Jonathan, they refused. Lara was confused and allowed her mother to watch over the baby. Kuar's wives issued a final warning, promising to spare their lives, but the Amazons did not want mercy and would never surrender to alien invaders. When he learned about this war, Superman quickly moved to the island after Hal Jordan was stripped of his arm. He was forced to walk for days in the desert until he managed to track down a vendor who had found his ring. He recovered it easily and is returning to action. When Kuar's wives were about to start a fight against Lara, the leader threatened Earth one last time. Bruce used one of his old tricks, calling an army of bats, scaring the enemies and causing them to shoot at each other. With their heat vision, the Kryptonians were tired of suffering. They started calling their leader a lunatic and were about to leave the planet. However, those who still remained loyal to Cortez took care of the deserters in a second. Batman was ready for the fight before being stopped by Superman. The battle was his, and he wasn't going to let Bruce die a second time. They didn't represent Krypton, Clark told Lara. The rest of the Kandorians just mocked him and beat him. They said his time had passed, that he had become weak after spending his whole life among humanity. And only then did Batman finally realize that Superman had been holding back his true power all these years. He broke Val's collarbone, his femur, 3 ribs, stunned him for a moment, and then made him suffer indescribable pain. The Man of Steel had his strategies. He was intelligent, imposing, and could be violent. Seeing him defeat his enemies without taking a single hit in return, the Bat could only think about how much he still had to learn from Superman. The Kandorians were stronger, faster, and younger, but they didn't have their opponent's experience. The terrorists didn't stand a chance of winning. They were willing to die by blowing themselves up right here, dooming the Earth. This action eliminated all kryptonite, leaving no means to fight him or evacuate the planet in time. Luckily, Atom came back at just that moment to turn them into nothing before they could cause any harm. It turns out Ray Palmer didn't die, he just shrank to subatomic size. And in that void, he managed to build what he needed to return to normal. The only remaining Kandorian was Kuar, and before he exploded, he was taken off the planet by Lara. Batwoman and her mentor persisted in shielding Gotham City from the crime that still plagued its streets. Like the rest of the superheroes, they seemed to have found their glory after all the chaos and mistreatment they endured. Clark had a normal life, taking care of his children, and Lara finally opened up to the possibility of learning from her father. She opened her mind to sharing that respect he felt for the human race. As I mentioned at the beginning, I don't think any prequel or sequel is on the same level as The Dark Knight Returns. But even so, I stand by what I said, that even with its horrible artwork, Strikes Again still passes as a worthy sequel. With the Master Race, the truth is, I don't know what to think. I mean, Kuar and his people are an interesting threat, but my issue is with the whole Batman and his resurrection thing. I don't really have an opinion on this. Honestly, I can only tell you that I enjoyed reading it and seeing a bit more of that interaction between these two based on mutual respect. Maybe trying to say that this wasn't just a story about Batman refusing to die, but also about Superman, finding that hope again and the reason to fight once more for what is right. No matter everything he had to suffer in the past, from his enemies, his companions, and even his own blood. I believe that the Master Race could have been a good ending, but the story is not over yet. After this, we continue with the Golden Child. Luckily, we don't have to analyze this story so deeply, since it's still unfinished. It takes place 3 years after the end of the Master Race and explores a bit more of Lara and Jonathan's life with their father. The conflict occurs during a scandalous election clearly referencing former President Donald Trump. In fact, it's not his first appearance in this universe's stories. In Gotham, two sides are in conflict, one symbolizing chaos with clown-faced members and the other attempting to establish order. Led by Carrie Kelly, Batwoman, Lara, and John fly over the city watching from above. Despite her efforts to empathize with humans, she finds it nearly impossible. Does she view humanity as a worthless species? On the other hand, John has developed a certain admiration for humanity, for those who fight to move forward every day. Darkseid was revealed to be the mastermind behind the election chaos, allied with Joker, or rather with a pretty good Joker impersonator. By interrogating an agent of chaos, they quickly locate the boss's whereabouts. Lara unleashes the full force of her heat vision against Darkseid, but the Conqueror doesn't fall easily. With just a few words, he was able to brainwash the humans present. Lara dodged the Omega beams, keeping the enemy's attention on her. It was Jonathan's chance to fire his blue beams at this Conqueror and keep him immobilized before being eliminated with his own power. For a few moments after the explosion, the only thing that could be heard were sirens. The rescue team sounded distant in the rain of blood. In the vastness of space, a star exploded and a menacing gaze fell upon our planet. A gigantic shockwave swept away everything around it in the middle of the ocean and among the darkness. The figure of a reborn Darkseid stood tall like a titan. Joker was still on the loose, and Carrie Kelly was in the middle of the chase. She followed him to an arcade where he frightened everyone before defeating them. A powerful bolt struck the city ground and Darkseid emerged once again. Lara was ready to face him again, but she didn't get the chance. Her rage was used against her, and she unintentionally gave Darkseid a way to manipulate her. He was using her to achieve his real goal, bringing Jonathan to his side. Oh, right, and I didn't tell you. For some reason, this version of Jonathan is much more powerful than he seems. You can even tell that he's not afraid of Darkseid, and is able to withstand the Omega beams by using neutron vision. John vanished in front of his enemy and somehow entered his brain to attack him. With few options left, Darkseid tried attacking Lara, but even that failed. John made her vanish and freed her from the control of this monster. Batwoman and the rest of the citizens threatened the Conqueror with firmness in their words, threw a stone at him and made him bleed. It was the end of Darkseid, apparently, and after that there is nothing. It was clear that political themes would feature more prominently than ever, though the story's direction remained uncertain. Why would Darkseid get involved in a future presidential election? Why team up with a Joker impersonator? And how was all of this supposed to help him in his goal of taking control of Jonathan? Anyway, The Golden Child was published in 2021, and since then there haven't been any updates about it. Maybe the story just doesn't have anywhere else to go, or maybe the people involved simply lost interest. I don't know. What I do know is that you should turn on notifications so you don't miss the next content from the channel. I don't know how well these two videos about exploring the multiverse are going to do. If you enjoyed the format, let me know in the comments. What other parallel worlds should we explore next? I'm currently exploring the world of Batman, Gotham by Gaslight. And maybe I'll make a video about it soon, but I repeat, can you leave me more suggestions? That's all for now. Thanks for visiting. I'm Alex from the NEGAYO channel. See you later.